Welcome to Eye Contact. I'm Paul Rosen, and today we're going to meet the recipient of the Binkhorst Medal Lecture at the 37th Congress of the ESCRS. It's Professor Ehud Assia. It's a great pleasure to have a chance to talk with Professor Assia about new perspectives on current surgical technologies, which is the topic of his medal address. Ehud, welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
Throughout your career, you've been involved in all sorts of new devices and new technologies, and you have a reputation for thinking outside of the box. How's that helped you in developing these new ideas?
Well, we are used to think in patterns based on our experience, either what we were taught or what we are used to. Anything else seems to be out of order or wrong. And that has been so sometimes for generations, that people just follow what they were taught and do the same things. Now, when we are facing some problems today, we are looking for alternatives to do it in a different way. And to do that, you need to think differently. Look at things from different perspective, and then you can see things that you did not see or thought of before and come out with some new ideas. If you just think, if you did, when you were a resident, the surgeries that you were doing today, that would be almost considered illegal. Yeah, just imagine that we are doing, you do surgery with no anesthesia, no injection, no kinesis, clear cornea incision, injecting antibiotics into the eye, and simultaneous bilateral surgery, and so on. So it was, at that time, was almost considered illegal to do such things. But time taught us that you need to think different. You need to look for other alternatives and other ways to do things, and this is how we make all the changes in our practice. Let me give you just one example of what I would consider thinking differently. Once I was coming back from a meeting, and at this meeting I was at the airport and was thinking about a case that I was seeing in this meeting. This was a case of a small pupil which was treated by expanding the pupil with iris ring. And the ring fell back into the vitreous cavity. So I was thinking that there must be another way to do it. There must be an alternative way to do it. What I did, I just took a paper clip, opened it up, wrapped it twice around my pen, and then I created a spring, like this. So if you just put two springs on both sides, it opens like this, and here it is. There is a solution to deal with, and not just as ring as most of the expanders are. So this is how we started with the APX, pupil expander, and so on and so on. So you just think of alternative way to do something which is very common in our practice, and then you come with alternative technique, and you're just thinking a little bit differently.
So tell me, is this sort of lateral thinking, is it something that you're born with, or it's something that you develop as you grow up?
Well, I think that this is something that I was born with. I mean, I am doing it for all my life, always thinking of different way, an alternative way to do things, and not in a kind of a conventional thinking. That's been throughout my life.
So were you a naughty child?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was a good child.
Okay. But can you identify any parts of your training which sort of helped you develop that sort of lateral thinking approach?
In my training, yes. Actually, when I was doing my residency and also during my fellowship, I was allowed to do anything that I want in the laboratory and so on, and come up with new techniques. We need to be very careful. Not everything that is new is good or better. But so we need to follow and to do it in order. But yes, I was always trying to look at different ways to do the things that we are doing.
I mean, when you do that, some people say, well, he's unconventional, and you get the sort of medical establishment who can be critical. So how do you deal with that?
Well, let's define establishment. Establishment can be the Ministry of Health, can be the regulator, can be industry, but the most difficult one is our colleagues.
Well,
I mean, colleagues are very difficult to accept some new ideas. But actually, all good ideas were rejected at first. You just think of Ehud Assia from your country, when he came out with the first intraocular lens, it was considered criminal. It was unacceptable to put a foreign body in the eye. It took about 30 to 40 years until it was accepted as the solution for aphakia. Or Charlie Kaman, his first phaco emulsification was 4 hours. Phaco time 1 hour. cornea turns white, and still it took many years until the establishment got it. Jan Worst with lobster claw IOL and so on. I mean, you can find a lot of examples, even though today things are going faster.
So how do you personally cope with that? Because I mean, it's quite hurtful if people are critical of what you're doing. How do you...
Okay, you follow what you believe in. Yeah. Let me give you an example. That in my presentation I talk about phaco-fluidics. Now we would like to have our chamber and the intraocular pressure stable at all times throughout the operation. We do the irrigation into the eye through the phaco endpiece, but when we pull out the phaco endpiece, the chamber collapses. Until we put it back in, then the chamber builds up, and the pressure builds up. The logical way to overcome it is, if you want a continuous pressure in the eye, you need continuous irrigation in the eye. And the simplest way is by anterior chamber maintainer. And I've been using my anterior chamber maintainer in my surgery in the last 30 years, and I'm absolutely confident that this is the best way to maintain the pressure in the eye at all times. Now, when I discuss it with my colleagues, everybody accepts, understand that. But nobody does it because you need an extra incision, which has absolutely no significance in terms of stability or astigmatism. But still, people would not use it, even though they do believe that this is necessary. So this is just one example. You need to follow what you believe. I do believe that with time, when we come to surgery with an intraocular lenses of 1 millimeter in size, this type of surgery will be acceptable, and everybody will use as a separate irrigation line into the eye.
Can you give any examples when you've been heavily criticized and they said you shouldn't be doing such and such a thing?
Well, I'm not sure if we're saying criticize, because I do not do things I should not do. I mean, I just do it my way, not always being accepted. But I just do what I do believe that it should be done.
And of course, you have to work at the fringes to develop and to progress.
Well, that's correct. Okay. And let me give you 2 more examples. And as for this, what I presented in my lecture, I actually suggest 3 modifications to our current phaco-fluidics. One was anterior chamber maintainer. The second one is combining. We do combine today the BSS or viscoelastic material. And I thought, why not combine the 2 into one material, a viscofluid? So we worked on diluted viscoelastic, which is 1/10 of the concentration of conventional viscoelastics. And it creates kind of a viscofluid, which is a very comfortable surgical environment. And that creates an environment in which everything goes slow. It's kind of a slow motion operation, which is much more protective to the corneal endothelium and makes a much easier operation. So this is one way of coming up with some new ideas. It does take time. It does, an industry does not always support it. It does not promote it. All the other examples that we found that phacoemulsification energy causes generation of free radicals. And that may cause some chemical changes and some chemical damage to the corneal endothelium. So by adding free radical scavenger into the fluid, that it protects the corneal endothelium. Actually, the free radicals are going down almost to 0, to none. And we use something that as simple as ascorbic acid. Now, these are some new ideas, but we can come up with idea with a proof of concept in our small garage. You cannot do that unless you have a support by both the colleagues and support of the industry.
You predicted my next question, which was going to be, you have a bright idea, but how do you actually take it into practice? Because a lot of people, I think, have bright ideas, but I think there's a real skill in translating it into clinical use.
That's a problem, because...
What's the secret of success then?
Well, I wish I knew, because I'm still looking for this success, because it really takes time and a lot of talking and convincing, and we do need the help of the industry to support it, and the industry does need some incentive. and why exchange with viscoelastic, which is very effective, with something which is very inexpensive, simple to use, but equally effective. I personally believe that eventually quality prevails. And it will come, but it may take time, sometimes 10 years, 20 years, but eventually it will develop.
That's patience.
That's patience.
And you just got to be focused and keep going. Ehud, thank you very much for giving the lecture. Thank you for coming and talking to us today. It's a great pleasure to see you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, and for more information, please visit us at eurotimes.org. Thank you.